Good afternoon. Welcome to the fourth episode of the most popular youth empowerment program, Woke. Today, I just want to thank all the viewers of Grenada broadcast for tuning in to this other episode of Woke. We are in tune for a very, very exciting episode. My name is Joel Greenidge. I am the host, and today in studio we have one of our leading youth figure on the island, a young man who is a champion for gender equality, for youth development, youth empowerment, rural development, equity, and unity in our country. My good friend and brother, Marcel Lewis. Thank you, my brother, for coming along on the program today.
Once again, it's a pleasure, being a part of this youth movement. Youth movement, I would say, to rescue our country and to share the platform with so many positive young people as yourself, Joel Greenidge, Cassandra, Mitchell, Earl Maitland, and there have been so many young people in the background who has been a part of this movement. I think it is wonderful, and it steps in the right direction that Grenada needs to go, direction that can lead to meaningful change and for more opportunities for young people. It's about an awakening from the sleep of ignorance and to better be able to inform the Grenadian people. So once again, my brother, it's been a pleasure being on this program with you.
Well, today we have some very, very, very interesting topics for discussion. We would also take comments from our viewing public, whether via social media. Your comments will definitely be read and it will be appreciated. Today, Master, we will be talking about very, very pertinent and interesting topic. I want to talk to you today about youth in agriculture and our food import bill and food security. I want to share something with you very interesting. And I will also ask you a question to get your intake. Grenada is the 197th largest export economy in the world. In 2017, Grenada exported $36.3 million and imported 187 million, resulting in a negative trade balance of 151 million. 151 million. In 2017, the GDP of our country was 1.13 billion, and its GDP per capita was 15.1 K, right? The top export of Grenada are nutmeg, which recorded at 10 million. Second was non-fillet fish, fresh fish, which was 6.3 million. Wheat flour was 2.4 million. Cocoa beans, interestingly, was 2.31 million, and other fruits 1.62 million. Right? Very, very interesting information, Mr. Lewis. What can we do as a country to reduce our food import bill? I mean, as you can see, we are importing so much, yes, exporting so little. What do you think we can do? And if you look at interestingly, very interesting to find out that nutmeg has contributed to a significant sum of our export. What can we do as a country to help to increase our import and reduce on what we export?
Well, first and foremost, I think that we need to get back to basic. I think a Calypsonian, I think it's DC Ranks, had a calypso a few years ago where he stated that, everybody wants to sit down behind computer and forget agriculture. Agriculture needs to be in her rightful place in terms of our development in this country. We have to take agriculture serious, and we're tired of the lip service. We're tired of administration talking agriculture and not pouring the necessary resources into it. Nutmeg, as you rightly stated, 10 million. But what are we doing in terms of developing that industry. There are many lands that are abandoned. You look at some nutmeg lands and you have vine and all sort of bush around the nutmeg. Do we have a nutmeg policy whereby we would interact with the nutmeg farmers, try to provide support and try to best, improve production? And these are some of the things that we want to do. What's about bananas? What's about cocoa? I think that there was an outrage just a few weeks ago whereby a big plot of cocoa land was cleared on to plantain for one of those rum factories. Agriculture has to be seen as being important, and the picture that we have of agriculture needs to change. We have that dirty boat stain up clothes. You're gonna work all the days of your life and not amount to anything by being in agriculture. We have to change this paradigm. And how can this paradigm be changed? Is through education. Through education. To Let's bring the success stories of agriculture to the schools. We have a number of successful farmers, as the kid Clouden. Why not bring him in the school to share his life story with the student? This is what I have achieved in farming. And if you were to farm and if you were to take this seriously, you'll be able to have a livelihood. You'll be able to feed your families and your communities. You'll be able to even create employment. So agriculture has to be seen as a viable option for the young people, and the way that this can be done is through changing the paradigm and changing the thinking, and we have to produce more. I see some of the things that we're importing from St. Vincent, and these are the things that we could produce here. We could produce dashing here. We could produce plantain, even the coconuts. We can invest right here in our country, in the rural, communities, instead of having our monies going to St. Vincent. And we have to take it seriously. This administration have to take a very serious look at the things that we're importing and ask the question, out of these things that we're importing, what are some of the things that we can produce? What are some of the crops that we can produce here so that we don't have to import it, so that these monies could stay into the Grenadian economy, because all of the monies are moving out of Grenada to other Caribbean countries, and we need to stop that. And the means whereby we will be stopping that is by producing more, by investing in agriculture, by changing the paradigm and the way that we look at agriculture. It is more than dirty clothes and boots. It is about food security. It's about feeding our people. It's about growing our economy.
And you made some very, very, very interesting point that I would just like to elaborate on a little bit. Changing the image of agriculture. I think the reason that we were not able as a country to attract young people to agriculture, I even, let's go back to the educational curriculum. How do we view agriculture from since young? If a young person says, I want to study agriculture, has our educational curriculum in a position currently to facilitate a young person who wants to venture into agriculture, not just learning about agriculture, but learning about management, learning about the innovative agricultural techniques, also incorporating the ICT into agriculture, making it interactive, you understand? Making it in such a way that young people can see a career. Also, one of the challenge in terms of agriculture is the access to finance. A lot of young people have great passion for agriculture. They want to incorporate the innovation. But one of the challenges is the access to finance. They may not have the security, right? Some of those young people are coming from home where they're disenfranchised. You understand? Where they do not have the financial backings, right? And some of their passion is agriculture. And I'm saying, if as a country, as a government, you could, let's say, guarantee loans for international businessmen, I think it's equally important for us to guarantee loans for young people who have a passion for agriculture, so they too can have a shot at their dream. Therefore, addressing the issue of food security and lessening on the amount of food that we import. I mean, let's look, for example, it is interesting to note that the top imports for Grenada are poultry, $9.7 million.
Wow.
So I mean, while this might be some bad news, but it's also an opportunity. It means that if we can get more young people to learn new techniques of producing poultry meat, using all the new techniques in terms of feeding the poultry, providing them with the access to lands. There's so many wastelands around the country. What about having a national project on poultry? You understand, where we can have young persons getting an opportunity to train in producing poultry meat. So therefore we can meet the quality and the demands of the hotel industry and all other small supermarkets and other businesses, or even feeding our nation in that regards. So I think we need to look at that opportunity, because with the high level of youth unemployment right now, I think that can be a good opportunity for young person who wants to be entrepreneur and want to be a producer in terms of producing poultry meat. Do you think as a country we are looking at these avenues, those opportunities that exist, or do you think we are just aiming blindly as it relates to development? Because let's look, for example, Marcel. Let's say the countries that we import our poultry meat from, let's say there's a major climate change issue, and we no longer can receive poultry meat from those countries. What will happen to our people? How would we be able to feed our nation? Has our leaders sat down and thought about that? In the environment, I mean, we hear about climate change issues, and countries are ensuring that food security become part of their national sustainable development plans. Do you believe as a country we are looking at that and taking it very seriously? Or do you feel as a country we are not realizing where the opportunities are and moving in that direction?
Most definitely, we know what the problem is, and there have been several conversations about the problem. But has the problem been addressed? I would say no. And our conversation is very important. I hope it is a step in the right direction, and I hope that the relevant bodies are looking at our programs to try to incorporate some of our ideas and in terms of our solutions in terms of solving this. You stated that poultry, almost $10 million is being spent on poultry, and this is something that we can produce in Grenada. This is something that, let's say we go to St. Mark's or St. John's, to the rural parishes, and says to the young people, organize yourself into cooperatives, and we as a government, we're going to support you. We need you to produce, let's say, 40% of the market, and this is, and you're killing multiple birds with one stone, because you're going to address the issue of youth unemployment, you're going to address the issue of food security, and you're going to address the issue of reducing our high import bill.
Exactly.
Can this be done? Of course it can be done. And I think it is high time that we hold our leaders accountable to solve some of the issues, because it is affecting us. And just on the point of food security, can we look at it as a home by home basis? Because I know, like, growing up, my mom would have explained to me her childhood, and growing up, everyone they had a pig, they had a goat, they had a sheep, they had a few yard falls in the yard. So in terms of milk, the goats, and I think it is high time that we, in terms of meat, you can get meat from the pig, you can get meat from the sheep, you can get eggs from the fowl, you could also get meat from the, and plus you still have your backyard gardens. So I think that we should look at a family project whereby every family would look at their food security issue and address it by having a small, backyard garden. This could even save income. You don't have to go to the supermarket and buy because you're self-reliant. And this is one of the ways that you can keep money in your pocket, and probably the extra income you save, you can even put it to in terms of an investment. So all of these conversation is conversation that we need to have as a family unit, because most of the things that we used to produce as a family, we're now buying it, and all this is affecting our disposable income that we may want to use to do something else. So I think that we as a family, we should be more self-reliant. But I really took your point to heart in terms of addressing that need or that opportunity in terms of poultry production in our country. And one of the things my brother, he do poultry as well, and one of the major concerns or major hurdles is the cost of feed. The feeds are very, very, very expensive, and in most cases it is driving a lot of poultry farmers out of business. So I would like to address the Ministry of Agriculture, and I would ask them, what can you do to ensure that the feeds are reduced, and that our farmers, our poultry farmers, is staying afloat, because it's quite difficult, even in terms of livestock farming, in terms of pigs. When you look at the cost of feed, if you don't break it down to a science, Joel, if you do not break it down to a science, you'll be operating at a loss. And the cost of feed, I would say, is the pink elephant that needs to be addressed. How do we subsidize? How do we get the cost of feeds down? And once we do that, I think that we could address our food security needs in terms of livestock and in terms of poultry.
I would just want to take this time to read some of the comments for the individuals who are following us. Petra Andrew Thomas, she said, good explanation of the meaning of what the country has to offer with agriculture. She also further stated, really, oh my God, so much for importing poultry. What happens to raising our own? This is sad. Petra also stated, as a country, they are moving too slow with the changes and not investing in local, really, really sad. We'll take a comment by Brian Grimes. As youth leaders, what are your views on the controversial Imani program? What's your views on the controversial Imani program?
Well, the money program, is it coming? The I had a friend who knew the people that actually pitched the idea to the government, and initially it was a good program, it was a good idea, and it came from a place of love. It came from a place that people who wanted to give back to their country. And was it politicized? Of course it was. Is it being misused? Of course it is being misused. Not only by the government, but by certain people who are in the program. There are people who are not showing up to the jobs and they're getting paid. And who is footing that bill? You know, and the government as well. They're using this in terms of votes. So at the end of the day, it's a program that is being misused by both parties in terms of the participant and the administration, and money is going down the drain. I'm not going to be derogatory. There are Imanis who are exceptional. They do honest work, and they work very, very hard. My heart goes out to them. And if I should be a little less formal and say I want to show some big up to them, big up their whole self because they're doing a fantastic job. But we must address the issues. Is this long term, having young people 3 and 4 times into that program? We need something more sustainable. Can we use the same money that we are investing in the Imani program? Can we take this money to address our food security issue? Can we invest that in agriculture? Can we get that import bill in terms of poultry from $9 million to probably $100,000? Can we produce more? Can
Yeah.
we invest that money into something that will solve problems? The problem, also youth unemployment, food security. Can we solve this? And the answer is yes. But we have to be serious about nation building. and it is time that we take the politics out of the situation, move it to the side, and let us look at the long-term development of Grenada.
And I just want to support you in some of the points that you brought forward. I support strongly apprenticeship program. I thought the initial idea of the Imani program was really good because you really want to prepare young people for the employment market. And today, with most companies looking for experience, the Imani program was that sort of nurturing ground to develop the social, emotional, and other aptitude or capacity that will be needed in the work environment. However, my contention with the Imani program, one, it's unsustainable. Two, are we getting value for our money as taxpayers from that program? Right? That's another angle to look at it. Also, in my opinion, I think the Imani program has taken away real sustainable jobs. And let me give you for an example. Let's say, Marcel, you own a company, and let's say you have 5 employees. Let's say you have an accountant, a secretary, let's say an office attendant, let's say a supervisor, right? They all qualified. You pay them a salary based on their qualification, right? But you decide, listen, that costing me $10,000 a month in salaries. Let me go to the government and let me get an accountant, a secretary, a supervisor, an office attendant. You're getting individuals who are qualified in some cases, has a university degree. In not some cases, more qualified than the existing staff that you had, right? They're more qualified. But when those individuals comes to work, you're not paying them as you were previously paying the previous staffs, right? They're being paid, in my opinion, a stipend by the government. So what is happening to that company? That company is saving money. So you think that company would want to ever hire permanent individuals and pay them a fat salary? No, they will continue to go to the government and ask for Imanis. So what you find, the Imanis are replacing people who had permanent positions and who was being paid based on their qualification. And with an Imani now, let's look at it from an economy point of view. I know so many individuals who are Imanis who wants to build. They want to purchase land, right? Those individuals go to the bank. The bank say to them, you cannot qualify for a mortgage based on the fact that you're an Imani is not a permanent position, right? Those individuals are now denied an opportunity to purchase land and to build a home. But who also is affected? The contractors. Because less people now have access to monies to build homes, then the contractors are out of jobs. The builders, the carpenters, the masons are out of job. You understand? And that individual is deprived of an opportunity to have to improve their quality of life and their standard of living. Therefore, in my opinion, that Imani program has become nothing but a political breeding ground for votes. And in my opinion, it is just bad. So I support apprenticeship program, but the question is, have we been getting value for money as taxpayers from that program, right? So that's just my perspective on that. Let's move on another topic, Marcel. But first of all, before we move forward, I wanted to touch on the third top imports for Grenada, which is furniture. Furnitures. 5.69 million dollars in furniture. That's what we actually import. I mean, that is alarming.
It is alarming, and I come from a community that produce furniture and good quality furniture. That is in Chantemelle. We have at least 2 furniture shop, and we produce top quality furniture. So I would say that this is very alarming. Can this be corrected? Of course, it can be. Who are our local furniture producers? Can we identify them? Can we pull all of them together into an association? Can we meet with our hoteliers and our restaurants and have a conversation as to address their furniture need and to see if our local producers can fill that void? This can be done, and it's all start with that conversation. I know that there may be certain hotels who may want foreign furniture, but when we give them the concession, can we tie in that they have to purchase local furniture? Can we tie into the concession that we're given? You're gonna come, you're gonna set up a hotel, but you must purchase local furniture, and this can be done. This can be done, and it is alarming knowing that there are furniture producers in the rural economy who are suffering, and that we are importing 5.6 or 7 million dollars, sorry, in terms of furniture. And this can be corrected, Joel, and it is not rocket science, but it starts with a serious conversation, and it starts with people who actually care about the country.
And I want to support you. I want to support you on the points that you have actually made. I just want to go through a few more comments. Raphael Paul, he said, how many students do we have at Maribor Farm presently? How significant is training towards enabling young people to have an appreciation for agriculture and to develop modern techniques in agricultural practice? I mean, that's a very valuable point that he actually made, because the truth and the fact is, yes, we have the Maribo Farm School. I have engaged a few young persons who came from the farm schools. They have the passion, they have the drive. I know of a young man who I would have supported, and today he has his agricultural business, and he's actually making more money than most people in agriculture, because he has went to the farm school. He understands the new innovative techniques. He does his own research. But one of the challenges, I said, to other young persons who have come from the farm school and wants to get involved in agriculture, the main problem there is the access to finance, the access to lands. That has been the major challenge, the support system. And I know we have touched a little bit on what can be done. What are the solutions you believe to address in that? We spoke about the access to the finance and the access to lands for young persons who come from the farm school, and they may want to form a cooperative in certain cases, but they don't have the access to finance and the lands. What do you think can be done? What do you think the government can do to help those young persons to start that business in agriculture?
Well, I think it's quite vital that we as a society support young people. And we stress the government. Can the government do more? Of course they can. But what can the business community do as well? Imagine you have at least 15 young people coming together to address our food security crisis in terms of, producing crops that will decrease our import bill. How can we sow into those young people? Can we help them to better market their product more? What's about our local credit union? What part are they playing in terms of our development as a country? Can they meet with those young people and have a conversation as to provide financing to those young people? Of course we can. I've heard the entire credit union movement boasting at least $1 billion in terms of asset. But how can you use some of those assets to help build Grenada and to support a cooperative with those young people? I think that is a step in a positive direction. Sometimes we look on government, but I think that other businesses have a role to play in terms of our development as a country. Can the government do more? Yes, they can do more in terms of providing lands for the young people to actually work. I have seen there are a number of lands that have been abandoned. Can we have a land policy? Of course. And I think that is a conversation that we need to have. What is our land policies? I've seen agricultural lands in terms of nutmeg and cocoa being cut down to build houses. And to tell you the truth, this should never be done. Because the country is losing money. Our top export is still nutmeg. And you have someone cutting down nutmeg tree. I think it should actually be illegal to even cut down a cocoa tree or a nutmeg tree without the authorization of the Ministry of Agriculture. Some people might say, oh, well, it is my land. No, we have to have policies in place to protect the agriculture industry.
And I think that that is actually very, very important. What do you suggest? A national policy on farming and food security? Do you think that that's a good step? And do you think it's also important to have young people as part of the policy discussion, or even have young people serving on boards or advisory groups in regards to agriculture, so that they can have some input on the new modern day ideas and innovative techniques for agriculture? Do you think young people are really being given an opportunity to come forward with ideas that can help address the issues? Do you think that we are taken seriously as it relates to that?
Well, I think that there is an opportunity, and that is definitely an area of opportunity whereby we can improve and that we can bring young people to the decision table. Because most commonly what you would find is that decisions are taken in the interest of young people, but in their absence. People would sit in their little seminars and workshop and decide for us without even bringing us in to get our inputs. And I think that it is important. And not only the young people, we want civil society there. We want the churches there. We want the local businesses there. We want the banks and the credit union to be there as well. And then we're going to have a dialogue. A dialogue, and how do we decrease our high input bill? How do we produce more? And what look at the linkages. The business community is going to help in terms of marketing the product. We're going to bring the hoteliers and the restaurants. What are some of the produce that you need? The government is going to provide the lands for the young people. The credit unions and the banks is going to help in terms of the financing. So everyone on this table would add something. Civil society would add their inputs as well.
I want to also make this point. Bernard Gilbert made a very interesting point. He said these days people are trying to eat more organic foods. So why not try free range poultry so the farmer should not depend on feed? Is that a viable solution?
Most definitely, I would say this is a great point, and it's outside of the box. It's outside of the norm that we have come to recognize, whereby to grow fall, you have to have this cage. And I think it is something that we can look into, and once we have the lands, and then we could have corn, and we could have the organic thing, because I know growing up with my grandmother, we had falls, and we had it with coconut husks, and the pieces of breads we throw on the ground, and they grow quite healthily. So most definitely that is a very good point, and that is innovation right there. And this is the type of innovation we need to get that high input built on. And I appreciate that point, and I hope that the relevant bodies who are listening to this program can incorporate that idea.
Yeah, and that's the very interesting point. Do you think it's a problem of lands? I think we have a lot of wasteland. Also, do you think that as a country, in terms of our lands, how we look at residential land, commercial land, agricultural lands, and I think we have a lot of agricultural lands that are not being used. I see that as a good opportunity because we identify where the problems are, we identify where the opportunities are. I think the challenge right now is taking the action from a collective point of view, having a vision for where we want our country to go in terms of addressing the issue of food security, lowering our import bill, and providing the necessary opportunity in agriculture, poultry, or furniture. These are opportunity areas to help address our high level of unemployment among youth. I just want to make a point here. One of the persons also stated, Brian Grimes, he said, underemployment is a big problem in Grenada. It's not just about dropping the unemployment figures with cosmetic solution. It's about creating quality jobs and opportunities. And I think that's a very, very important point. It's not just about saying, okay, our unemployment rate has gone down by 10%, but it's basically very cosmetic, because when you look at the jobs that these individuals are doing, those jobs are not sustainable jobs. Then a man might be, I say, a debusher. A man might just get a 2 days or a few days to maybe do something very basic, right? That does not give him an opportunity to improve his quality of life and improve his standard of living. So I think that's a very valuable point. Do you want to lend any ideas to that?
Well, I think that it's a very good point that Brian has raised, and people want to improve their life. As my uncle would say, you want to lift your nose up. People want to improve their quality of life, and sometimes most of the jobs that we have to do is probably to keep the lights on, to put a basic meal on the table. But we want to improve, we want to grow. We may need a better house, we may want a vehicle in our yard, we may want to take a vacation. And when you look at most of the jobs that the people have to do is just to get by, and the expression is who feels it knows it, and the people who are feeling it, they really, really knows the pain that they're expressing right now. So at the end of the day, we look for jobs, and I think that it's important to look for jobs, but can we create more?
And
We have an education system that is teaching our young people to look for jobs.
yeah, true,
Can we have our young people create job that does not even exist?
true, exactly.
And that is the direction that we need to look towards. And that is what work is about. It's about that conscious awakening. It's about looking outside of this paradigm and this construct that we're trapped in. And we need to create more. We need to have our creative faculties exploited on a very, very, very deep level. And we need to invest in the young people, the creative minds, because not everyone wants a job. There is a young woman right now, she wants to have her own business. She wants to be in the art and craft, but she wants financing, to get her product out to the market. How do we work with her?
Yeah,
There's a young man right now who is into making sandals, leather sandals. How do we support him
true.
to get his product out to the market? There's a next young woman. She wants to make her red mangoes and her stews and her tamper balls. How do we provide support to her? She does not want a job. She's not interested in a money job. She wants to produce. How do we bring the credit unions and the banks and all the stakeholders to provide support to those young people? And that is important. It's not enough to say, well, we have $1 billion in asset. How is that $1 billion affecting our people? How is it developing Grenada? And that is what the credit unions and the financial institution have to ask themselves. Are we a part of this development?
And I
Are we
agree.
a part of it?
I agree.
Yeah.
And and I really appreciate the fact that you made a point, Marcel. The fact that the banks and the credit unions have not been supporting entrepreneurship in the country. And I'll give you a typical example. When I decided to start Quest Farm and I approached the various financial institutions, I remember when I went to one of the banks, though I had a decent income and you had savings and everything, they did not even look at my agricultural business idea, because it's like it's agriculture. There's no guarantee that you would be able to make monies, so you'll be able to sustain your loan. And I was denied that opportunity. And there are many other young persons who have said to me that they have went to the financial institutions, and in some cases they don't have the security right? But not only that, some of these institutions are not even looking at, like, business is hard. They ask you for your lung, your kidney, then they still deny you. You understand? But if you look at, I look at something very interesting here. We have less young people today starting their own business. I've seen cases where young persons went off to study business management and they come back and they're looking for a job. When you think a person like that should be looking to start their own business. And I know starting your own business is not like a walk in the park. It's a huge challenge. But the question I want to ask, do you think as a country we have done enough in terms of creating a culture of entrepreneurship? Do you think we have done enough, or our young people was to go to school, get a good education so you can find a good company to work for with a lot of job security and benefit, only to realize that was an illusion? And they find themselves in a position in the middle of a dark forest trying to go north, and they don't know where north is? Is it that as a society, as a culture, we have failed our young people in terms of preparing them for the long and hard and dark road ahead, and they don't have the level of adaptation skills or that survival instinct? Is it that our young people has just been handed down things, in the sense of just been handed things, being handed them to handed handouts, like the whole handouts mentality? They grew up in an environment seeing handouts, everybody dependent on something, and they believe, okay, then I should just fit into the same, system and just depend on a little handout just to barely survive. Or do you think young people are really passionate about creating their own opportunities, but they just don't have the support? Which one do you think?
I think that the young people are creative. They have a lot of passion and they have a lot of ideas, and they need support, because you know where those passion are now. Those passion are in the rum shop right now, and they're drinking shot after shot. That passion right now is on the block right now, burning spliff after spliff. That passion right now is in a gamble shop right now, gambling. That passion right now is in a room closed up and is frustrated. We have to support our young people, Joel. And is there an environment conducive to young people getting involved in business? No, because everyone sees the youth as either a problem or a threat. And we have to embrace our young people. Not because a young man has his pants under his bam bam, that doesn't mean he's a bad person. He may be lost, but can we embrace him? Can we show him a better way? Can we try to find out what are his passion and his skills, what he's into? Can we value him? Because he needs to be loved and to be embraced. And there's a lot more that needs to be done, Joel, but it starts with a dialogue, and every stakeholder has a part to play. The banks, the credit union, civil society, conference of churches, governments, opposition, because the future of the young people is everyone business. And it's not only about the government. What's about the business community? Because the same young people would go to a supermarket or a shop or a store, because the business community, they are benefiting from the young people as well, so they have to invest as well. Look at our businessmen. Can they provide seminars to aspiring young businessmen and businesswomen? Can they teach marketing? Can they teach entrepreneurship? How to accounting? Can they help? Of course they can. What are they doing right now? So this is more than the government. We put everything on a government, and a government should do this and a government should do that. But what's about the other part of society? Society has a part to play in the development of our young people, and society has been failing the young people. And society will just turn and say it's a government problem, it's a government problem. The problem is much more deeper than the government. Everyone has to be held accountable.
And I think you made some very, very strong point. There must be a collective approach to national development. I just want to make a discussion, create a discussion around this, a point that Brian Grimes actually raised. And I think that is a very pertinent issue right now. The fact that you will read the newspaper, right? There's a high level of unemployment in our country, but you will read the newspaper, and weeks after weeks, you will see this certain vacancies still showing up in the newspaper. Have you made that observation? And the problem is that as a country, we have not prepared our people, especially our young people, to fill those job positions. And what you think happened? We now have to reach out to foreigners to come in to do those jobs. And those monies leave our country. Speak to that. What do you think we can do as a country to ensure that our people are prepared in terms of filling certain positions, whether it's in the technical area or whether it's in the professional areas? Or should we look at it from that angle? Should we provide scholarship and training opportunities that is in alignment with our national sustainable goals, our vision for the next 10, 15, 20 years? So let's say, for example, this is our vision for the next 20 years, and we know we will need civil engineers, we will need mechanical engineer, we'll need persons in just whatever area it is. Do you think it's important as a country that we begin to provide scholarship opportunities to those persons so that they can go off to study, so that they can come back and provide that sort of support or service to our country in those areas? Because what you find happening is that we tend to provide the scholarship in the same areas. And what happens? The employment market becomes saturated. So you find the market demands, let's say, for example, there's 500 accountants in the country, but the market only demands 200. What becomes of that surplus? We cannot say we're going to export them to other countries like we're going to do with the nurses, because I mean on a global scale, I mean those markets are also saturated. So what happens to the surplus of 300? They now have to go find jobs for which they are not trained, and that becomes a big problem. So how can we as a country provide scholarship and training so that our young people will be prepared to take up those jobs instead of foreigners coming and take up those jobs? Look, for example, in our hotel sector, most of the middle management and upper management jobs are taken up by foreigners. Even the recent Silver Sand, to my surprise, look at it. The middle management and upper management positions are taken up by foreigners, while our local people have to take up the ordinary jobs in those sectors. How can we address that as a country?
Well, Joel, I will start by piggybacking on one of your points. We have to know where we are going. We must know where we are going. Do we have a 40-year plan? By, let's say, by 2030, we want to reach there to this particular direction. But you know what we will need? We will need a certain number of skilled individuals. And once we understand the skilled individuals we need, we will provide scholarship and we will
Let me have phone so I can
provide
see the comments.
training
My
to
battery
those
died.
young
My battery
people.
died. My battery died.
And that is
I see the comments.
that is very, very, very important, Joel. So we must have an audit of our labor market and to really decide what do we need. And once we understand what do we need, we provide the necessary training and the necessary scholarship. One point I wanna make again in terms of having because a lot of the monies are leaving our economy and it's going to other Caribbean countries. I believe in regional integration. I think it is important, but then again, I am a nationalist. I want to know that my people are being taken care of first and foremost. I do not want to sound biased or against regional travel and regional integration, but I love Grenada and I love Grenadians. And I make no apology for saying that. To piggyback on a previous point that you made in terms of financing for agriculture, and you stated that most financial institutions are reluctant. But I want to throw an idea out there, Joel. And the idea that I want to throw out there, can we have a farmers credit union, whereby farmers all over the country comes together, pool their resources together to provide financing for farmers. I think that is quite doable, and that is a good idea, and that is a seed that, if planted and if nurtured, farmers years into the future can benefit from. But we need a strong farming association. And who will bring about a change is the young people. This innovation will come from the young people, and these are the problem solving ideas we will need to move forward. And it's quite doable, Joel.
I just want to read a comment from Renewed Purpose. We send Grenadians to China to learn more about journalism. Why not send some of our furniture makers there to get training? Then give them concessions on imported materials. Make more small business loans available. That's a very valuable point.
That's a very, 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 very valuable point.
And these are things that can you can start now.
Yes.
You understand? Because we realize that okay, we are importing so many furnitures. That's an opportunity right there. If we could, it's about 5 point something million. If we could even cut back by providing opportunities for local furniture makers, and they can take at least $3 million out of that. That money can circulate in our economy
In our local
and
economy.
provide the most needed jobs and opportunities for our people,
Most definitely.
especially our young people. And the reason I say young people, there's so many young persons who might not have finished school, but they're very good in carpentry. They're very good joiners. That is a good opportunity for them.
It is, Joel, and it is something that can be done. It is not rocket science. We just need to think outside of the box. I think that we're trapped. We're trapped, and we need to get outside of this trap because the solutions are out there. And this is quite important. And just to go back to a previous point that I will make, the companies come to Grenada, they want to set up a hotel. I must have certain stipulations. And one of my stipulations is you must buy local furniture. I will not allow you to import foreign furniture. If you want concession, this is one of my stipulation. You have to ensure that you buy all your furniture locally. And this alone improves the rural economy because those rural furniture makers now have an income. And now in terms of their income, the income within the community is great. They can now go to the shop and support the local shop. You understand? So the economic activity in the rural areas improve by just this one policy, and it is not hard.
I want to ask you a question because I know we don't have much time remaining. What type of leadership do a country need at this time in order for us to go to the next level in terms of our economic development and people development? What type of leadership do we require? And the point I'm really trying to make, at this time, the leadership must start at the top, and it must be able to trickle along to the ordinary man in the community. What type of leadership do our country requires at this moment? And do you think that our current leaders are demonstrating that type of leadership?
To be quite honest, Joel, we need inspired leadership. We need a man or a woman that could speak belief into the Grenadian people, who would inspire them to be more than what they actually are at the moment, to go out there and to want to work and to build this country. And we had that sort of leadership during the revolution, where we had a prime minister that could speak to people and to inspire them, to give you this kind of burning desire in your belly and make you want to work for Grenada. And that is what we need right now. And do I see this in this political spectrum? I'm gonna be honest, I don't see this type of leadership, and it is not with the all. We need a leader from outside of this construct, because most of them they're in a bygone era. They don't have the the pains of the Grenadian people at heart. We need somebody that cares, somebody that can feel the concerns. They know what it's like to be hungry. They know what it's like to have one shoes in their foot. They know what it's like to have one pants going everywhere. They know struggle. And they're inspired to improve the lives of the Grenadian people. They understand the youths, they understand the old, they embody the entire country, and they want to bring Grenada forward. They have dreams of Grenada aspiring, building, and advance. Do we have that right now, Joel? The answer is no. The answer is no, and I'm going to be honest. And I believe that my dream has to be realized by a young man or a young woman.
And I would shake your hand on that point. I mean, I could have, as you spoke there, I could feel, I felt the passion. I felt inspired, I would say, but this man is a Morris Bishop reincarnation, But it's very true. It's very true, Marcel. I think we need inspirational, transformational, and servant leaders who has a genuine interest, leaders who can empathize, leaders who are in touch with the people, the grassroots people, the ordinary people, leaders who wants to make a difference, leaders who want to lift this country out of the dark and desolate valley of hopelessness and place this country on the mountain top of prosperity and sustainable development. We want leaders that young people can look at and say, I want to emulate this person. I want to follow this person, because this person is going in a direction that Grenada would be proud of. Currently, we cannot say that. I think we have a leadership crisis here in this country. And if it is not resolved, I think history will be unkind to us as a people. And one of my observations also, when young people today push themselves forward for leadership, young people who have demonstrated a willingness to make a difference, young people who have shown that they are competent, they are passionate, and they have the best interests of the people at heart, they are being blocked, they're being sidelined, and they're being marginalized. That must change. And I believe that Marcel, what we have been doing has been working. Because when I walk into a business place, or I walk into a community, or when I walk the street, young people are meeting me. Individuals are meeting me. See, Joel, I am listening. I am inspired, and I want to be part of this movement of progressive change. Any final closing words you would want to leave to our viewing audience, Marcel?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of our audience. I want to thank Mr. George Grant as well for providing us with that platform to have such a program. I also want to thank a lot of young people in the background. I want to thank Belinda. I want to thank Rick Elson. I want to thank Cassandra, All Maitland, and all the young people who have been behind us, Rainy as well. You may see Joel and myself, but there are so many young people in the background who have been providing support to us, and we appreciate you. And once again, thank you to Grenada Broadcast. You're definitely shining a light into the darkness. And to the Grenadian people, continue to walk. Continue to be consciously awakened.
I would just want to leave this final quote with our people. Whatever our mind can conceive and we can believe, we can achieve. And I conceive a day when our country, Grenada, will be a force to be reckoned with in this international community. We are going to have young people coming forward boldly and rescue our country. Grenada is poised to take off. You mark my words, Grenada is poised to take off, because the minds of our young people are awakened. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your audience. We appreciate your comment. We appreciate your support. One love, Grenada. Blessings.